Welcome, everyone. We're just gonna wait another few moments for folks to arrive.
Hello, Donna.
Oh, hello. Nice to see all of you. I love that some of you are already putting their videos on. We always love to see your face, but of course, for those who are rather just keep your cameras off, that's fine as well by us, as long as you're getting what you need also in this hour. Okay, so feel free to keep your camera on or off. We ask that when we are doing the webinar itself, if you can maybe just turn your microphone off for the duration, because for some folks there may be feedback if more than one or two people have their microphone on. Okay, so just inviting you to turn your microphones off. Okay, so maybe we want to make sure that we start on time, just also respect all of your time as well. Lillian, do you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about Go by Bike Week?
Yeah, absolutely. So this webinar is brought to you by GoByBike BC, and GoByBike BC are running something called a Winter Go-By-Bike Week, and it's based around the International Winter Bike Day, which is on February the 11th of this year. And what better occasion to celebrate that than a whole week of cycling from 7th to the 13th of February. So Go by Bike BC are just encouraging British Columbians, but also people all over the world to ride their bike as much as possible. You could ride to work, you could ride to school for fun or for exercise, or just to kind of relieve stress and clear your mind. And Go by Bike BC encourage you to log your rides and your total kilometers at a website that we will send out after this webinar to all registered participants. And Go by Bike BC are also very kindly offering some gift cards to MEC, who will be doing that at the end of this session. So I'll pass back to Donna. Oh, and just for everyone, I'm Lillian. I'm the Streetwise Manager at Hub Cycling. So yeah, we're really excited to be partnering with Go by Bike BC for this. I'll hand over back to you, Donna. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lillian. So you heard Lillian, especially if you happen to have the time to stick around until the very end, there are going to be some prizes that will be randomly drawn for a few lucky folks. But most of all, we really want to make sure that this hour is useful for you in terms of getting what you need and your questions answered around fall and winter cycling. Now, our apologies, as you all know, last couple of years, there's a lot of Zoom going on, okay, and which means that there's unfortunately not as interactive in terms of the way that we want to do these type of workshops as it would be in person. That being said, there is a handy little tool at the very bottom of your screen. You'll see a chat button. And this is something that you can press on and you can type in your questions as they come up throughout this webinar. Okay, and you can also, you're welcome to have a little conversation amongst ourselves, especially when it comes to maybe resources or tips, right? That perhaps is that you're reminded of as we're going through a particular section of this workshop. And I will continue to prompt all of you as well, just to share with one another. Hopefully I'm not the only one talking at you. Hopefully that you're also having a conversation with one another as well. So just inviting you as we begin this workshop, just inviting you to take a breath, whether or not you're sitting, you're standing, and just finding your feet on the ground beneath you. And just acknowledging that this ground is connected to the land underneath it and around it. noticing that you're breathing. Notice that with every breath, the air that is coming in and out of your body is generated and connected also to this land. This land has been stewarded and cared for, continue to be cared for by Indigenous ancestors and peoples since time immemorial. They were the ones and still are the ones who are working tirelessly to protect the land, water, animals, and all of our surrounding ecosystems. So we want to start our session today by acknowledging the true ownership of the land that we are on. Today, we're hosting this learning and sharing opportunity on the ancestral, traditional, stolen, and occupied lands and territories that belong to the Coast Salish peoples, which include the Musqueam, the Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. So this is an invitation that we're extending toward all of us, myself included as an uninvited settler on this land, to really think about our responsibilities and the actions that we can take in especially relearning and unlearning how to be in relationship with the land and the people that came before us. So Native Land is a great website, and perhaps Lillian can also type that into the chat if you haven't heard of it. It is a great resource for you to also find out the Indigenous communities and peoples who were there before in that particular location where you are. I know that not everybody perhaps are signing on from where we're hosting this webinar as well. So it's a great way, a great beginning to understanding the land that you're on. Not going to speak too much about this. Hub Cycling, have a feeling that many of you have heard of us before, and for registering through our website for this workshop. We are a not-for-profit organization, been around for a long time. The pillars of our work is education, advocacy, and also celebration, which again are demonstrated by lots of fun events in the communities. Our mission is to essentially get more people biking more often in the region. And for more information, you can log on to our website at bikehub.ca. And just look at those happy faces on the side there. And these are what we live for. Little quick intro about myself. My name is Donna. I go by she, her pronouns. My ancestral name you'll see on the screen as well, Chin Town Town. I've been with Hub Cycling since 2012 in different capacities, quite a few years now. My favorite, hands down, is sort of being on the ground and delivering, facilitating education in the community, from school-aged kids to, again, workshops like this. And it really gives me a lot of joy to witness, again, the confidence, the joy, the ease people find on their bicycles and with one another, that sense of community. So before we get started, just wanted to get a sense of who's in the room. Okay, so we've got a little quick couple questions for you. First one, what is your experience in cold weather riding, right? So this includes a lot of different conditions, of course. And if you want to just take a moment and help us fill in one of these 5 responses, which one fits with you? I'll just give everybody a moment here to get their responses in. Okay, so I see we've got quite a variety of different experiences and expertise in here. So we got folks who, for the sake of, there we go. Let's just share the results here. Let's see if I can do that. There we go. So we've got a bit of everything. That's great. So we've got folks who are already doing this most days of the week. That's amazing. Okay, so this means that, again, you probably have a wealth of, tips and ideas. Feel free to chime in via the chat, especially throughout the webinar. And for those of you who have only tried it a few times or not very regularly, and those who's never done it, I'm hoping that there's going to be some information in this workshop that's going to help support you to do it more or to do it more often. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna move to this next one, and especially for folks who haven't done it very regularly. Okay, let's see. Oh, here we go. Thanks, Lillian. So for those of you who aren't doing this very regularly, what are some of the reservations that's holding you back? Okay, so I know that there may be only 3, seems like, choices that's on there. I'm sure there are many more reasons that stop people from doing this regularly, but given these 3, which ones are kind of ones that you feel you can pick more than one as well, or most stumped by? Yeah, I see a clear winner here from the back end, and I'm going to share the results with you in a moment. Okay, so there we go. Yes, me too. Slipping and falling on icy conditions. Yeah, and I definitely think for myself, it's already so many different layers that I'm wearing right on me. So it definitely takes time. So there's that element of probably how much time it's taking, the right gear that you have, right? All of these are, I mean, very reasonable, makes a lot of sense that these things would actually stop you from wanting to do this regularly. So again, we'll cover some tips we have, some ideas we have for you to perhaps hopefully ease some of these concerns for you, or give you some more ideas as to how to navigate them. Okay, so that at the end of this workshop, perhaps there's a little bit more confidence in trying it out. So you'll see that here's a little overview of the workshop. We're going to pause, of course, in the middle of the webinar for a short Q&A. So if your chat questions aren't responded to right away, we're going to definitely be able to address it then. Also at the very end, of course, we're going to hopefully have some time for Q&A and the prize draw as well. Okay. So let's dive into this. Again, first thing, outfitting your bike and yourself. We're going to dive into outfitting your bike first. Okay. So for some of you, again, like I said, if you have experience, especially riding in fall and winter conditions, feel free to chime in with ideas in the chat. So some of these may not be at all new to any of you. Okay, so these are just reminders also for folks who have been doing this for a while. So first of all, if you do not have fenders, get them installed. If you try to, or you're wanting to get riding more regularly during fall and winter, you can always remove them, okay, in the summertime. So it really prevents dirt and mud from flying around. And I often find if I don't have fenders, there's a mud trail all the way down my back, right? So not the best for also keeping yourself dry. This is something, just a reminder again, you can do very simple things to make a ride more comfortable during fall and winter. Okay, so again, lowering your saddle slightly can lower your center of gravity. So the advantage of this is that it may be easier to get your feet down, for example, flat on the road, especially when it's a little bit slippery, when it's a little bit, right, harder to navigate, whether or not it's slush or perhaps, surface that you're not so confident about, makes it easier to also start off sitting in your saddle when things are a little bit slippery. So lowering your saddle can just help you feel a little bit more comfortable on that bike, okay, and maybe a little bit more confident in slippery conditions. Not a surprise, you might want to think about your tires, right? So this includes many aspects of your tires. You may want to get wider tires, right, to just maximize your contact area that the bike has on the ground. Easy way, even if you have a thinner or skinnier tire, lower that tire pressure will help a lot in, again, maximizing the contact area. If you are wanting to, again, try out riding fall and winter more regularly, investing in tires with good tread, with, especially icy conditions with studs, probably will be worth it. You see that there are a number of different brands, different models. Of course, at the lower right-hand side of the slide, those are studded tires that you can invest in. Okay, so including the Schwabe Marathon winter tires, the Continental Nordic spikes, those are all good choices. Now, when it comes to brakes, I know that, for many of you, you may only have one bike. For some of you, you may have more than one bike. Okay, so in fall and winter riding in these kind of more extreme conditions, picking the bike that has a disc brake, if you happen to have a bike with disc brakes, is probably a better idea. Disc brakes have better stopping powers than rim brakes, which is the picture that you see on the left here, right? It's rim brakes that catches the rim to stop the bike. They're less affected by the wet than rim brakes. However, if you only have a bike with rim brakes, not the end of the world. What you need to remember then is to wipe the rim on a regular basis. Okay, so just a rag, any kind of rag after each ride, give it a good wipe, getting kind of the gunk and the water off of it. Okay, so that it makes room for the brake to actually grip the rim much better. Now, in terms of visibility, yes, we want to be visible, especially during the dark times of the year, fall and winter being the two seasons that's the darkest. You'll see this is a plethora of different kinds of lighting options, right? So the idea, bottom line being, when you are, depending on where you're riding, you want to think about lights for you to be able to see other road users and to be seen by road users. Okay, so typically 100 lumens, lumen is the unit of how much light it's emitting. Okay, 100 lumens, when you go to a bike shop, you'll see that on each light there's kind of an indicator of how many lumens there are in this light. 100 is a good benchmark for being seen. Okay, and 300 to 500 or more lumens is really good for seeing. So for example, if you're riding through, I remember especially in Victoria, like, Galloping Goose, pretty dark in certain sections, like trails specifically. You want to have lights that can light up the front of you completely so that you can see. But in the city, even though it's pretty dark, you may not need all the way up to 500 or more lumens to be able to be seen. You don't want to blind, for example, the drivers or other road users either. However, this means anything less than 100, okay, so 20 to 100, somewhere around there, this is kind of where especially MEC lights, and again, there's nothing wrong with that, it's just a lower lumen, but just know that MEC lights, especially the USB rechargeables, which I love quite a bit, they're affordable, but perhaps in some sections of the city are still not bright enough. So consider combining that. One of the lights with something else, maybe even a helmet mounted light or other lights and reflectors on your bike. Okay, so you'll see that also on the right side of this slide, there are lots of different kind of lights that lights up the side of your bike. So this includes valve lights. You can plug onto your valve, spoke lights, right? Things are getting more creative and people are making some pretty cool stuff. So these are really good for being seen on the side. And in fact, I think that's actually becoming more and more important, especially as, in darker sections of particular neighborhoods, you want to make sure people can see you on the side. I wanted to just make a point of the image at the very top, the slaplet. Those are actually, I remembered being first introduced to them when I started running way back in the day. They're really good for, especially for pedestrians, right? When you're running, I actually found that they're really good for biking as well. Either, on my peignet or maybe on my arm, my, sort of forearm, just being seen again on the side as well as front and back. It's quite a brilliant idea. These are all things that I got from Welks. So for those of you who don't know, Welks is a little store on Main Street. I think Main and 17th or 18th have some really nice goodies in there. And these are very affordable. And I just carry them in my kind of toolkit sometimes, or just in my backpack or peignet. It's easy. I often find that carrying emergency bike lights, just in case my main lights run out of power, is a really good idea. And this is all backed up by kind of evidence. For those of you who really likes empirical evidence, there's been research that's done that says that essentially using bike lights during the daytime, especially when visibility isn't great, will lower our risk of being in a collision by 47%. That's a pretty big, significant number. So just think about that. Think about, again, how do you want to become visible during the daytime as well as at night? A little bit about on other bike accessories for fall and winter riding. I know for some folks, backpacks is still fine. I personally feel like the backpack becomes a bit of a burden for me, especially in colder weather riding. It just feels like one more thing that I have to think about. So peignets is great. Again, Arkel, and I think this is two-wheel gear at the bottom right there. These are all Canadian brands, right? That you can access at bike shops online. Whether or not you like backpacks or peignets, having something to carry your gear and also your rain gear is probably a good idea. Having waterproof covers for these saddles and backpacks and peignets are also a good idea. Some of them already come with kind of an attachment that you can pull up and use. Otherwise, just think about something that can easily be folded, right? That doesn't occupy a lot of space. I also like to think about my saddle when I park my bike somewhere. If it's raining, how do I protect my saddle? For those of you who already do this, that's awesome. I just use a little shower cap, right? Tuck it right underneath my saddle, and that's a quick and easy way to just pull it over. So again, just an invitation, if you have a favorite bike accessory or gear or even brand that you recommend, you can plug it into the chat. We're all learning together here. And maybe before I even dive into the bike maintenance piece of it, I'm going to just go back here for a moment. There isn't a specific slide for this, but I just wanted to let folks know, especially those folks with e-bikes, because I know that they're becoming more and more popular. Make sure during fall and winter that you take the time to dry the battery after each ride. If it's removable, okay, take it off and wipe it. As well, for folks who, again, if it's a long commute, or if you know that, hey, weather's going to get really bad later on in the day, bring your compass pass, your transit pass, so that you can hop on the bus or train. In fact, that's my favorite part of my basic toolkit, that I carry a compass card so that I can hop on public transportation anytime that I need. Okay, so in terms of maintenance, again, not going to talk too much about this specifically. We do have a specific bike maintenance workshop as well that will address some of this. But basically, you want to take care of all parts of your bike like you would otherwise. But fall and winter requires that you want to, again, pay attention to them. Maybe, do some extra care for the parts of your bike as needed. So I mentioned already earlier on, wiping rims of your tires is really important, especially for those rim brakes to catch. ride the bike with a better braking system, take a look at your brake pads, especially those rim brakes. Make sure the grooves are still there, right? If they're starting to disappear following winter riding, probably requires that you go to a bike shop or change this yourself. You want to make sure that the brakes are working. That's kind of key. Treads on tires, yes, do not wait until your tires look like the one at the bottom left corner of the images. Now, don't wait till then, replace it before that, okay? Talked about fenders. And again, in terms of basic maintenance, you want to just make sure to oil your chain and clean your bike perhaps more often in the winter, especially if you're riding through slush and sleet. All of those type of things will kick a lot of salt, kind of salty, dirty water onto your bike's parts, which can again, cause corrosion, other damages. So you want to make sure to wash it. I mean, I say regularly, but I think go by common sense and wipe it down every once in a while, rinse it, okay, as soon as you finish every ride, especially in winter conditions. What else do I want to say here? I think that's probably everything I want to say. Again, going to a bike shop, find your person, okay? Find your person or find your shop essentially. And when there's any questions in terms of maintenance on your own, you can always ask the bike shop folks and mechanics. They are great at what they do. They probably will recommend you the right kind of lube or oil to use as well. Okay, don't try to guess this yourself or do some research. So gonna dive into outfitting yourself. This doesn't mean that the chat, what you want to share tips and ideas on bikes and bike parts and other things need to stop. You can continue to plug those into the chat. I'm going to dive into outfitting yourself. So for those of you who are especially trying this out for the first time or trying this out more regularly or want to do this more regularly, I would say celebrate your small wins. Okay, so again, there are a few tips here, none of which is probably a surprise for you. I would say the right gear helps a lot. Okay, so instead of getting all of the gear that you feel you'll ever need to ride in wet, cold conditions, okay, invest in a few key pieces. So think about what will keep your body comfortable, what will keep you comfortable when you're riding. For example, for me, I want to invest in really good gloves, maybe even layering those gloves up because my hands get cold quite easily. Same thing with my feet and my socks, right? Just again, noticing I really need dry socks throughout the day, whether or not this is bringing an extra pair or just getting really good waterproof shoes or booties, which we have a slide a little bit later on. Blundstones, I find that usually works. There's Vessi. There's a lot of other brands of waterproof shoes now that people can get and celebrate. Do little trips. It doesn't have to be a long, very tenuous journey. It could be just a little ride to the neighborhood grocery store. It could be, a few blocks to a friend's place. Okay, so again, try out little trips, small trips. If you're doing this, just starting to do it, and it's going to help build up that confidence and comfortability. So again, nothing new, okay? Clothing, accessories. I find layering to be key in the winter. I find personally, I do not like cotton layers. They get very wet. And then later on, even as I sweat, after I sit down, it starts to cool and it gets super cold. So merino wool is always a good idea. Definitely wear moisture absorbing inner layers and make sure your outer layers are breathable, okay? And of course, waterproof as well. Some idea suggestions here on what to wear, think about wearing on your head, your neck, your bodies. I wanted to just point to this ponchos versus rain gear idea. For some of us, I know that ponchos personally, I like them, especially in non-windy days. I find that they cover a lot of areas, and I know that ponchos are really well designed to kind of go over, of course, handlebars, and also leave a little space where lights can still project, right? Like the picture on the right here on the side. Ponchos are not perhaps the greatest if there's a lot of wind, of course, right? In that case, but it's something that you can consider. I don't know if there's an image of this. No, I don't think so. They're little packages, tiny little packages from Welks that is almost like a one-time use, poncho that you can get, which I just keep it in my bag, right? In my pannier, comes in handy sometimes. Last but not least, I mean, if you don't care about getting wet, right, going to work or coming back home, just leave a set of clothes at work if you can to change into your destination, or bring it. Oh, all of the technology on clothing and accessories, of course, as I mentioned before, gloves with multiple S's. I like to bring multiple pairs of gloves with me. Part of this is also when we do education in schools. Kids are awesome. They come with t-shirts and no gloves in the winter. When November, we roll into a school to teach them how to ride. So extra pair of gloves kind of double as gloves for kids as well. Okay, so multiple pairs of gloves. Make sure that also the outer layer, if there's a way that you can make sure that people can see, right? And again, think about all of the hand signaling that you have to do on the road. Having something, this pair of gloves on the right hand side, for example, has reflectors built in, comes handy. Same thing with feet. There are lots of different ways you can keep your feet dry and warm. I know that for some folks, wearing thicker socks is kind of a go-to place. I actually find that sometimes it really restricts my blood flow and like circulation. So I actually like to wear just like not too thick of a pair of socks, but making sure that I have, really warm pair of shoes. Bluntstone sometimes works for that as well. But as you can see, there are booties that are also designed to keep parts of your feet warm. Okay. I included a image of this great, this is one of our lovely cycling friends, Shift Delivery. They have these trikes, which I thought was really lovely. They had these kind of lobster claws secured onto the handlebars, right? And these are actually, you can buy these now online. They're called, if you Google pogies or pogies, I don't actually know how to pronounce it, you'll find that there are lots of products online now. You can easily make this. I think that this pair of lobster claw was made from one of the Shift Delivery folks, whether or not parent or grandparent that made it, which is great, but you can buy them online as well. And those are all, just really important considerations depending on how hardcore you want to go, right? With fall and winter riding, and how cold you want to ride, or how cold of a weather you want to ride in. Now, for those who do need to be getting to work on a regular basis, and if you wanted to be doing this in kind of cold and rainy and snowy conditions, make sure that when you get there and the trip, right, that you have somewhere to dry your rain gear, your snow gear. Most workplaces are really great these days now for allocating spaces, for building end of trip facilities to make sure to facilitate this. But if you don't have something like this at your workplace currently, even just asking the workplace to get you a drying rack, or making sure there's a space, right, that's made for that, can be a starting point. So think about that, right? And especially if you feel that there's absolutely no way that you have room to dry your rain gear, definitely make sure to bring an extra set, again, to make sure that you can get home safely. Okay, so I'm going to pause here for a moment, do a quick time check. Okay, I think we're doing okay. Maybe anything that is in either the chat, or perhaps folks just want to turn their microphone on and ask a question. They're all good.
We haven't had many questions in the chat, but one question from Sharon was wondering if there are any recommendations of like good bike shops in Victoria. So I thought I might just put that back to the participants and see if anyone has any recommendations.
Yeah. Good question. I wish I knew more about Victoria bike shops. It's been a little while since I've been there, but I know that they have good ones. Yeah, I'll just pause here for another few moments here in case anybody has questions. And I'm really liking that folks are sharing yeah, ideas. And Welk says it 20th of May. Thank you. Perfect. Yeah. Nice. Great. Warm and waterproof shoe covers. Great. So we'll continue these conversations and I'm just going to dive in. So now that we've covered a little bit around outfitting, right, both your bike and yourself, I'm just going to dive into a little bit about tips and our thoughts around how to keep yourself safe riding during fall and winter conditions. Okay, so riding tips. So for those of you who have attended maybe some of the other hub workshops in the past, this may look familiar to you. Okay, I just wanted to emphasize that it doesn't matter if it's fall and winter, anytime. Okay, that when we're on a bike, there are kind of 4 basic needs that we want to make sure that we're serving ourselves. Okay, so the first need is to be able to move, to be able to have enough space around you to maneuver. Okay, the need to be seen. And so we talked a lot about this, of course, in terms of lighting, in terms of visibility, but also inviting you to think about being seen also has to do with where you locate yourself, where you position yourself in a lane on the bike. Okay. Third need is to be clearly communicating what you're going to do via hand signals, bell is always a good idea, right? Other things to be able to communicate your voice. Need to do what's expected. This probably especially will support you in keeping yourself safe, okay, in fall and winter when visibility isn't that great to begin with. Doing what's expected, stopping at stoplights or stop signs rather and red lights, all of those things, riding in a straight line, right, for other road users to know your path of travel. So keeping those things in mind, just gonna highlight some scenarios in fall and winter, especially just to pay attention to. So first of all, talking about, especially when there's slippery road conditions, okay, that you wanna make sure that when you're turning, you're not doing, I mean, for some of you who are really skilled in turning and who really feels like your center of gravity's got you, okay, maybe you won't fall, but for the most part, sleet, snow, icy conditions, you want to make sure that you're staying upright as much as possible when you're turning. Okay, so taking a turn slowly, be aware of black eyes, staying upright rather than leaning too far into one side. Also, slowing down and braking a little bit sometimes helps the rim brake catch a little bit, okay? And rather, when in doubt, getting off and walking it. Okay? So I know that black ice is not always visible, so slow can definitely reduce the impact even if you were to fall, and also if you don't feel safe, just get off and use your superpower of a pedestrian to cross. When it comes to signaling and braking, okay, we know that, of course, there are 2 ways to signal to turn right. One way is what's pictured here, with just the right hand indicating exactly where you're going, and the other one is using our left hand, elbows up, right? So in fall and winter, again, just an idea here, we think especially if you're going down a hill and turning right, definitely make sure that you keep your right hand on that brake, which is the back brake, okay, and using your left hand instead to signal just in case anything, again, occurs, happens that you have to brake right away on the road, that you're not braking your front brake. And especially with slippery conditions, that's probably going to have more of an impact on you and your bike. And in terms of braking, I think the only other thing I wanted to say here is sometimes in fall and winter conditions, it takes a little bit more time for the brakes to catch or for the brakes to work. So anticipating ahead of time, so braking ahead of time, gently braking rather than sort of the emergency brakes, full on 100% on your brakes, probably not the greatest idea. Okay. Lane positioning for visibility. So specifically, I think that this is pretty straightforward for many of you. This is about the ability to move, right? So the safe distance to keep theoretically between yourself and the curb or a parked car is a meter. Yourself and moving vehicle is a meter. It kind of avoids the door zone, right? Making sure you're staying out of all of the debris and all of these other things that may be located at the edge of the road there. In fall and winter specifically, you also want to keep in mind, because it's cold, windows may be foggy, right? Driver may not be able to actually see very clearly at any given moment. So as you're passing by even parked vehicles, just making sure you're slowing down, right? That door may open at any point in time. And, again, trying to anticipate as much as possible there. Just because there is a bike lane does not mean everywhere in that bike lane is safe enough for you to ride. So this is up to you to make that informed decision where you're going to locate yourself. This is where lane positioning comes in handy, right? Especially fall and winter, knowing that there's less visibility sometimes. So in this particular case, anywhere further to the right of this bike lane, if this rider were to ride down, you can see that's kind of landing in the door zone. So you want to avoid that as much as possible. So taking the lane, this is nothing new probably to some of you. You don't need to see the sign on the right-hand side of the slide to know that you have the right as a cyclist to take the lane, which means to be in the middle of that lane. This is actually a very, I would say, useful skill for fall and winter riding, especially because some of the bigger streets, for example, even streets that perhaps are a little bit wider than the need for taking the lane. You may want to take the lane on them because whether or not the road is not clear, there's kind of ice that's stacked up on, or snow stacked up on the side. So you want to make sure that you again, assess the road condition at all times. And whenever you feel there's no safe distance between yourself, that 1 meter on each side of you, you have the right to take the lane. Okay. And for the most part, bigger streets, I know that now actually the cities are much better at clearing bike paths after a snowstorm. But for the most part, bigger streets are still cleared much faster. So you might even consider using those to be a safer bet when it comes to black ice or snow, things like that. So don't worry so much about this image. It's actually a good image or a graphic little drawing. Pretty much all this little picture is telling us is just to remind us when we're riding, especially in fall and winter, to keep that chain straight. So what we mean by this is that usually if your bike has the rings in the front, okay, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 2, sometimes there's only 1, and then there's the back gears, again, depending on the bike that you're riding, can go up to 7 or 8, right? You want to make sure that if you're using the smallest chain ring in the front, that you stick with 1, 2, 3 on the rear. If you're using the middle one, right, in the front, that you're keeping to 3, 4, 5 range. And this is really also for folks who are maybe just getting used to biking and getting used to biking in all weather conditions as well. This will make for a much more comfortable ride. Okay, and also part of this, it guarantees a smoother pedaling action, which then can keep you feeling a bit more steady on your bike. Don't ride in too low of a gear, especially in ice or icy, slushy conditions, mainly because it's really hard to keep things smooth if you're spinning the pedals very fast. Okay. But also for a lot of beginner cyclists, we tend to use the harder gears more than they're necessary or that you need to be. So again, experiment with this even outside of fall and winter riding and see what feels good for you, but especially during kind of harsher conditions, make sure that your body is comfortable and you're not overusing your bike's gears. Debris, slippery surfaces, there are many, sometimes unexpected ones. I don't know how many of you have noticed these painted lines sometimes can be very slippery in rain and in snow as snow's melting. Okay, so again, noticing wet piles of leaves, not the best place to be riding, of course, right? But also just paying attention to when you see kind of a puddle, maybe try to ride around it just because that may be hiding debris, hiding potholes, you know, all of those type of things. Okay, and slowing down is really sometimes the ultimate tip for navigating these slippery surfaces. A note about railway tracks, right? So I think most of us know that if you keep to a 90-degree angle as you go over the railway tracks, that's going to help you maintain the balance and less slippery, the least amount of slipperage as possible. I've personally had some interesting experiences on Granville Island, especially lots of railway tracks, and I've definitely fallen on rainy, wet conditions there. So look out for those railway tracks. So again, route planning. AAA stands for all ages and abilities. You'll see that, you know, according to research, there are specific routes that are suitable for all ages and abilities. Okay, and there are some that, you know, again, like the painted bicycle lanes or even painted buffered bike lanes, of course, major street shared use lanes are not specifically necessarily suitable for all ages and abilities. However, in fall and winter, these may be the roads that get cleared first, especially after snow, especially depending on, of course, the weather condition. So make your informed decision in terms of just because it is suitable for AAA may not be the safest for that particular day. Okay, so again, note to all of us to think about conditions, ways in which that you might want to make your decisions. Last but not least, and this is kind of related to this compass card that I carry with me, okay, multimodal transportation is always a great idea for fall, winter, you know, just, I mean, whether that's not optimal. Okay, so TransLink, of course, has lots of different facilities specifically for this. You can take bikes on SkyTrains. There are now, of course, bike parkades at SkyTrain stations that is quite affordable per day if you want to lock it up. Bike lockers, that's been existing for a long time. If you haven't tried the bus bike racks, you can YouTube it. There are a couple of TransLink videos that kind of you can take a look, and it helps explain that quite clearly. But also now there, I think it was last year, that there is also now they've upgraded bus bike racks to carry e-bikes as well. Of course, that e-bike has to be, I believe, under 55 pounds. Also, the wheels, of course, has to fit into the rack itself. But you're welcome to, you know, I'd say that, you know, if you're not comfortable doing this just yet, roll it over to a bus depot near you or just a bus stop, you know, as the bus driver is sitting there, maybe waiting for their next shift, just ask them nicely if you can try it out, especially with e-bikes, because you never know. Okay. So that's some things and resources. Now, bus bike racks, there are now 5 demo racks. That's all around Metro Vancouver. There's one at Main Street Science World SkyTrain station, just outside of it, one at City Hall in Vancouver, one at North Vancouver's City Hall, one at Port Moody, I think it's Moody, I don't remember that station specifically, and one at Production Way University. Good memory. I believe those are the 5 that are currently in place. Okay, so if you are close to any one of those, you can try it out outside of the SkyTrain stations on the rack. Okay, so good with Good with the slides. Sorry, just had to check Lillian's message there for a moment. So any questions? Let me just take a look at the chats here. Thanks, Robert. Yeah, taking the lane, especially in slushy conditions. Yeah, great idea. Any questions or maybe thoughts or tips that folks want to share? Great. I see that there are lots of vouching for Vessi. That's great. Yes. Nice. I don't think I've heard of Zedwift. Maybe I'll wonder if Mike wants to elaborate on that a little bit. Or maybe I'll do a little Google and figure that out. Okay, so I think if there is no other questions, again, just gonna move on to, this is quite lovely. Now Hub is offering lifelong memberships for just $10. So you can join once and for all and support the work and the advocacy that a lot of people are doing to making, again, our region a safer and more connected cycling network. I know that we also have more than 10 now different regional kind of committees that are working with the municipalities to make sure that especially cycling is part of the conversation when it comes to you know, building new infrastructure, building new roads, things like that. So again, please do take a look at this membership page and take a look at, and oh, and I should mention that I know this is just a just an icing on the cake, but once you're a member, you also have lots of different benefits from local bike shops, you know, discounts for both purchasing a bike and you know, getting your bikes tuned up and different fixes and, you know, components and all those type of things, as well as we have some partners with kind of car sharing companies as well, which then you get free minutes and free sort of distances for using car sharing services as well. Oh, great. Thank you. It's a virtual training platform. Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Yeah. Rubber boots is pretty good. Mid-thigh high. Yes, of course. And again, it's great that folks are, you know, different people find different gear, right? Accessories comfortable, right? So again, try out a few things. It really doesn't need to be a big investment either. Again, like I said, really figure out what you need and buy those key pieces first and try them out. Okay, so I think if there's no other questions here, and continue to again chime in via chat. There I see Rob saying have bells for warning pedestrians. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, pedestrians sometimes are harder to spot these days. I definitely have found. So again, keeping your eyes out, right? This is probably a good idea also for the lights that, you know, can help you see, right? So a little bit of a higher lumen, maybe not so high that it blinds others, but make sure that you're keeping an eye out these days for pedestrians. Three finger gloves. Yeah, it's almost like a lobster claw, but that's interesting. Yeah, so I'm imagining that maybe it has like the index and middle finger, yeah, compartment. So then, Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay, so maybe without further ado, I know that the hour is almost up. Feel free to, again, ask questions in the chat and talk amongst yourselves. But Lillian, shall we do the prize draw?
Yeah, for sure. So just while we were doing this final Q&A, I put everyone's name who's in the call into a random name picker. And I picked out 4 names. Well, I didn't pick them out. The random name picker picked out 4 names. And those 4 people have won a $30 gift card to either MEC, which is the default. But if you don't want MEC and you prefer it to be a local gift shop of your choice, a local bike shop of your choice, then we'd really encourage you to go for the local bike shop. Hub loves supporting local bike shops. So without actually one more thing is that if your name has been read out, if you could just private message me, or you can put it on the chat if you don't mind, but private message me your email address, and then I will email you and double check that you want a MEC gift card, or confirm what kind of gift card you want for which bike shop, and then we can get you your $30 gift card. So the 4 people are, we're doing a little drum roll. We have number 1, Jane. I hope I said this wrong. Sora. That's the first person who won a $30 gift card. So Jane, if you're able to just privately message me your email address. The second person was in the chat as HBINNEMA. I can't say that name. I'm not sure if, yeah, that's so. I think it's like Hibinima. So if you could also message me and let me know that your what email you want me to send the gift card to. And then the third person is Nell Vinia. Again, Nell, if you're able to email me, DM me and let me know the email address you want to use. And the fourth person is James Harrison. So I'll give those people a couple of minutes to message me and let me know their email address. If we don't hear from them by the end of the call, that's like, well, I can wait a few minutes after this video finishes, but if we don't hear from them, I can pick someone else. So hopefully I'm going to be getting full DM messages.
Congratulations to the winners. And while you're taking that moment to message Lillian, I will just let you know that there will be some more resources coming your way, that there may be an email, or that there will be an email with some resources, as well as a little course feedback survey. So probably takes a minute or 2 if you can take some time just to get that completed and send it back to us. Really supports us in creating, facilitating these workshops better in the future. Okay, so with that said, thank you again to everybody for making the time to join us today. And I hope that some of the things we shared will be useful to you, and that will hopefully support you in riding more often, or trying to ride in fall and winter. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. And we'll be here for a little bit longer, just in case you have any other questions that you want to just chit chat with us around. And for the folks who need to message Lillian to finish what they're doing.
I've just messaged all those people, but I can also hopefully get a hold of them.
Okay.
Post event.
Great. Thank you.